Yeah, good.
Okay. All right, we're going live, so I'm just going to keep everybody on mute. Good evening, everyone. We're going to be starting at 7 o'clock in a few minutes. Till then, we're going to have some messages in terms of events coming from Oshawa and a little bit of background music, and we'll be starting in the next few minutes. So please settle in for this evening's talk. Thank you.
Pranam everyone, Jain. Tonight's topic of conversation is Vegetarianism and Veganism with a Jain perspective by Nitin Bhai Mehta. Before I hand over to Nitin Bhai, just wanted to give you a little bit of a background on Nitin Bhai. Nitin Bhai was born in Kisumu. He moved to the UK in age 19, studied sociology at University of London, and he lives in Croydon with his wife and 2 daughters. And one of them is a technical backup today as well for him. So Nitin Bhai, as you may or may not know, is a very keen on promoting vegetarianism. So he's founder of the Young Vegetarian Society. For the past 39 years, he's been hosting an annual Christmas lunch, totally vegetarian, to promote friendship between communities in Croydon. He's an active campaigner of vegetarianism and veganism through regular appearances on national events as well as articles in national press. He's authored a book, India, a Civilization the World Fails to Recognize, as well as one called Benefits of Vegetarianism to Africa. Nitin Bhai received an MBE in 1999 for his services to the community. He's also received the Ahimsa Award from the Institute of Jainology and Glory of India Abroad Award from the India International Friendship Society. The Mayor of London has also presented him with an award, making a significant contribution to the society. Nitin Bhai has been instrumental in setting up vegetarian society around the world, amongst countries, Kenya, Mauritius, New Delhi, Paris, Lisbon, and in the Indian states of Punjab and Andhra Pradesh. He's also a patron of the Animal Interfaith Alliance. Nitin Bhai can be described as a lone warrior in the quest for actively promote vegetarianism and veganism, because his enthusiasm and his energy is still boundless after 40 years of campaigning. So that's some CV, I think. Nitin Bhai, welcome, and I'll pass you across to you. What we'll do is we'll take questions and answers at the end. You can ask them via YouTube or through the Zoom if you've logged in via Zoom as well. So hopefully we'll have quite a lot of time to talk about those. So Nitin Bhai, over to you.
Jai Jinendra and Pranam. Thank you, Paresh Bhai, for that quite interesting introduction, and thank you for being so generous. So I think we'll start first of all with the Namokar mantra. Here we go. Namo Aryantanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Ayaranam, Namo Ujayanam, Namo Loe Savesavanam, Eso Panch Namokaro, Savopao Panasano, Mangalanam Cha Sarvesim, Padamang Havai Mangalam. So, first of all, I would like to thank Oshwal Association UK for inviting me to do this presentation. My thanks also to Paresh Bhai and Ashish Bhai for being the hosts today. And my very special thanks to my childhood friend from Kisumu, Kaushik, who actually organized the whole thing. I'm going to talk for about 20 minutes and then we'll have questions. A lot of it I'll be reading out, but I promise you it's not going to be boring. It's kind of information that you might not have heard before. So please bear with me, but there are lots of statistics and interesting bits of information. And then of course we'll have questions. So we'll start off, and I'll just start off by assuming that we are all vegetarians. That is, we do not eat meat, fish, or eggs. The next thing is to find out if we are unknowingly causing any himsa or violence in our lives. A fruit called fig or anjir in Gujarati is something we should avoid. Butterflies go inside this fruit and lay eggs, and quite often cannot come out again as their wings are too big. They die and get swallowed in the fruit. So there is himsa in eating this fruit and should be avoided. That is fig or anjir. Next is honey or mud. is something that we should avoid also. Bees work very hard to collect the honey from the flowers, and after all their efforts, they manage to collect only one little drop on a teaspoon. The honey is collected for them to consume. We take that away from them. That is himsa, and so honey should be avoided. The next thing is to avoid buying anything that involves himsa or violence. So we should not buy leather goods, goods like leather sofas, shoes, purses, etc. We should never buy fur coats. We should also avoid woolen clothes. The meat industry and the leather industry are interrelated, so leather should be avoided. I would like to tell you now how I learned about the commitment of our British vegetarian and vegan friends to this cause. Many years ago, I had gone to an International Vegetarian Union meeting in Israel. From there, some of us traveled to Cairo. We went to a hotel and were in a queue to get registered. There were some leather sofas for people to sit on while they waited. None of the group of people with me sat on those sofas because they were leather. And for me, that was quite an enlightening thing. The other thing is, do not go to meat restaurants, even if they serve vegetarian food. Try your best to make sure your children and grandchildren remain strict vegetarians. Tell them, even if they go hungry, they should not eat meat, fish, or eggs. Gandhiji came to England in 1888. His mother got him to take a vow not to eat meat. She was simply not prepared to compromise on this principle. On the other hand, we sometimes say, since my son is going to university, we do not want to insist on him being vegetarian. Ahimsa means you do not give up at the first challenge you face. When you have faith in your beliefs, God will always find you food to eat. Not many people know that Gandhiji became interested in our dharma and heritage when he met vegetarians in London. He got introduced to the Theosophical Society and leading vegetarian figures of the time, like George Bernard Shaw, Annie Besant, and many others. So had Gandhiji not had that vow, he would not have come into contact with people who aroused his interest in important issues of the time. In Jainism, we have a concept called Abhaidan. This means giving someone protection from the fear of death. An example is that a bumblebee has got into your room and is trying to get out. You are getting late for work. Would you make an effort to open your windows and doors and guide it out? This is Abhaidan. This small ahimsa will sow the seed of compassion in you to do more ahimsa. When you have mice in your home or a sudden influx of ants, do you panic and think of getting rid of them fast? Or do you think, I'll get a mouse trap which does not harm the mouse and release it in a safe place? When walking on grass somewhere, which has a lot of insects on the ground, do you look on the ground and walk so as not to step on them? This is all about Abhaidan. So much cruelty is being committed to animals. In the UK, every year, 26 million cattle, 10 million pigs, 14 million sheep and lambs, 80 million birds, and 950 million fish are slaughtered for food. There are at any time 4 times more chickens on the planet than human beings. Over 16 million animals are trapped in cages all over the UK at any time. They suffer in small cages before being killed. Those who think eggs are okay to eat should know that hens suffer greatly in cages, and all the male chicks are gassed or suffocated straight at birth, as there are no use to the egg industry. As if that was not enough, animals are hunted and exported alive to other countries for meat. Nearly 2 billion animals are shipped around the world. In 2017, Australia exported 640,000 sheep to Qatar. They are packed tightly and suffer greatly on the ship. The sick ones are thrown overboard and eaten by sharks. Turkey imported more than 500,000 cattle from Brazil and Uruguay. On arrival, these animals face a brutal death. Jeev Daya or Ahimsa campaigners in this country have been campaigning hard to stop the export of animals from the UK. Some years ago, a campaigner died in Coventry as she tried to stop a lorry bringing the animals. We gave her a Mahavir Award posthumously. Horrific experiments are carried out on animals in the laboratories to produce weapons and medicine for humans. Millions of procedures take place every year on mice, as well as monkeys and many other animals. There is a protest taking place outside Oxford University for many years, and we have given the organizers a Mahavir Award. 50 million pheasants and partridges are bred for shooting. They're kept in a cage and released. They are unable to fly properly because of being trapped in cages. They are then shot for fun. So what can we do? We started the Indian Vegetarian Society over 40 years ago. We have organized events in many parts of the country and relentlessly campaigned for ahimsa. We have supported many organizations working in the field of animal cruelty. We have given Mahavir Awards to individuals and organizations working for animals. Fox hunting has been banned in this country after years of campaigns, but illegal hunting goes on. Members of the League Against Cruel Sports go to these illegal hunts and disrupt the hunt by scaring away the foxes. The frustrated huntsmen and women attack these heroes. A few years ago, we gave Mahavir Awards to 2 individuals who were attacked, and one was hospitalized. They had vowed to go back and keep protecting the foxes. Through the Mahavir Awards, so many of our British friends have come to know of Jainism and proudly keep the Mahavir Award in their homes. We also support animal sanctuaries run by many extremely compassionate and dedicated people. Over the last 4 months, we have donated over £5,000 to various sanctuaries. The coronavirus has impacted sanctuaries with cash flow problems. They are also taking in more and more animals. Over the last 30 years, we have donated over £130,000 to animal sanctuaries. Many Jain individuals and organizations have supported us, and we welcome any support you can give. For the last 39 years, we have also organized a vegan lunch for our British friends. The PR impact of this is immense. They come to know us and our heritage better and love the immense varieties of food we offer. It is very important for us as an immigrant community to build strong connections with the host community. When the Porter's Bar Oswald Center was bought, there was some opposition from the local people. I suggested to Ashwin Shah, the then president, that a Christmas lunch should be organized and the villagers invited. He agreed. The result was that those who came were so happy to see the center, and a story was published in the village newspaper. Today, there is a vegan revolution going on in this country. The whole food chain supply here in the UK, all over the Europe and in the USA is turning towards a vegan diet. According to Richard Branson, for future generations will not be able to believe that we eat meat. Our Jain population is around 60,000 in this country, but I consider all vegetarians and vegans and ahimsa activists as Jains. So we are actually the biggest minority. All we have to do is reach out to them. That brings me to the question of going vegan. There is immense cruelty in milk production. Along with milk, you also get blood cells and the pus, which is all legally allowed. The male calf are killed at birth or bred for beef, as they are no use to the dairy industry. The cow suffers from arthritis, mastitis, and many other conditions. The dairy cow lives at most 5 years, but they can live up to 25 to 35 years in normal conditions. Most of the milk is taken while the cow is pregnant and has high amount of hormones. In the UK, there are 1.8 million dairy cows. They give between 7 to 14 times more milk than they could naturally. They are confined in closed areas and cannot graze. They are fed high concentrated cereals. When a calf is born, it is separated from the mother in a day. Normally, the cow suckles the calf for a month. This separation causes immense suffering to the mother cow. The cow is worn out after 5 to 6 years and is sent for slaughter. One cow generates as much waste as 50 human beings. Known as cow pests, this waste is channeled into vast lagoons attached to the farms. They emit noxious gases, cause water pollution with nitrates and E. coli bacteria. Milk has lactose, a natural sugar, and it could trigger diabetes. In our Indian families, some people drink milk before going to sleep. It is a big mistake. Milk is difficult to digest and causes gas. Some children get eczema, asthma, and other allergies from milk. You can get vegan cheese, yogurt, ice creams, almost anything. You can also make vegan shrikhand, which is what I used to miss most. So vegan shrikhand is really as good as any shrikhand now. Complete your ahimsa journey and go vegan. You will need to take a vitamin B supplement. That is important. You can get B12 from fortified cereals, fortified plant-based milks, Marmite, and nutritional yeast. Our planet is on the brink of a catastrophic disaster. The biggest cause of this is meat consumption. Billions of animals raised for meat are releasing methane gas, which is the biggest cause of global warming. The rainforests of the Amazon, which are the lungs of the planet, are being decimated to start cattle ranches and to grow soya to feed the animals. Such is the demand for soya that poor South American countries are using up their fertile land to grow this crop for export. Huge amounts of pesticides are used, which is killing off all insects, birds, bees, and earthworms. The population around the farms in South American countries suffer from a host of diseases due to the indiscriminate use of pesticide. In Suriname, the dense forests are being cleared out and wild animals like jaguar are facing extinction. Crops are also being increasingly used for biofuel in the US. This puts more pressure to produce grains not to feed human beings, but to feed animals and for biofuel. Over 40% of grains produced are fed to animals raised for meat. They could feed 3.5 billion people. The world population is set to rise from the present 7.5 billion to 9.5 billion by 2050. There will be mass starvation unless we give up meat-based diet. Earthworms and pollinating bees are crucial for human survival, and both of them are dying. Mother Earth is not getting its nutrients, and we might only have 3 harvests before there is a collapse. We are decimating the planet, and the future generations will face a catastrophe. Over 50% of all freshwater resources are used up in slaughterhouses and for growing crops to feed animals. 550 gallons of water are needed to make a 5-ounce burger. The real cost of a burger is almost $100. It is only because the meat industry is heavily subsidized that burgers are sold cheap. Countries will go to war for water as deserts spread and droughts occur. Around 80% of global human water consumption is used up in raising animals for meat. In an increasingly thirsty world, there will be wars for water resources. Animal raised for meat produce 13 billion tons of effluent every year. The feces of animals and the blood seep into rivers, oceans, and create dead zones where nothing survives. The US has huge areas of dead zones. What we have done to the land, we have done to the rivers and oceans. Trillions of fish are killed, and along with that, the huge trawlers used for fishing are killing all marine life, whales and dolphins. The mangrove forests, which act as a buffer in a tsunami, are being destroyed. They are now producing farmed fish, which swim in their own feces. They are fed other fish in a cannibalistic merry-go-round. Because the rivers and oceans are so polluted, fish have mercury, which is extremely harmful to anyone who consumes the fish. Omega-3, which the fish has, can be obtained from flaxseed or flaxseed oil. Jains believe in the idea of parasparo jivanam, meaning that we are interdependent on other living beings, as well as all that nature provides us in the form of rivers, oceans, forests, and mountains. In 1958, Chairman Mao launched a war on sparrows because they were eating too much grain. The whole country was mobilized to kill them. Around 195,000 were killed in one day in Shanghai alone. Millions were killed throughout the country. Sparrows were important to the food chain. The bugs they fed on thrived. The locust population spiraled out of control, as did grasshoppers. The insects devoured the crops and famine followed. A salient lesson to human beings that when you disturb nature, it reacts with ferocity. In the West, the emphasis is on taming nature and taking everything out of it. This is the reason why the world is on the brink of disaster. In our own lifetime, we are now seeing droughts, cyclones, hurricanes, and many other disasters. Driven by short-term profits, the human race just does not see what is staring in its face. Future generations will suffer greatly for our folly. The health benefits of a vegetarian vegan diet are indisputable. Various forms of cancer, diabetes, and heart disease are linked with meat eating. The biggest challenge facing the medical world now is that antibiotics are not working. This is because 45% of all antibiotics are fed to animals raised for meat, and they're losing their potency. Without effective antibiotics, diseases like TB, pneumonia will rise once again. Surgery, childbirth, and organ transplant will all become dangerous without antibiotics. High amounts of cholesterol is found in white meat, fish, eggs, and dairy products. After lung cancer, prostate cancer in men is most common. Vegetarians are half as likely to contract it as meat eaters. People consuming meat daily have higher death rates from kidney cancer than vegetarians. Kidneys can cope with plant protein much more easily than animal protein. Pancreatic cancer is uncommon but fatal. Those who eat meat 3 times a week are most likely to get it. A quarter of all chickens are infected with Salmonella campylopter. Around 5.5 million people fall ill every year in the UK because of Salmonella, and about 100 of them die. So you just got to be unlucky once and not cook your chicken properly, and you could be in danger of getting Salmonella. Cooked or processed red meat is a source of carcinogens or cancer-causing agents. Processed foods have hydrogenated vegetable oil used in some biscuits, cakes, pastries, and margarine. It has 10 times more cholesterol-raising power than dietary cholesterol. And do not forget, vegetables and grains and fruits do not have any cholesterol. Plant foods, fruit, vegetables, pulses like beans, peas, lentils, nuts, and whole grain protect against numerous diseases, including Alzheimer's. The antioxidants obtained in these foods help destroy the free radicals in our bodies and in the environment. So there is one problem for all the major problems the world is facing today, and that is meat eating. So what is there that you can do practically to help? Join the many animal rights groups that are active. Promote a meat-free diet at every opportunity. Talk about it to your friends, especially children. Ask children if they are vegetarian and educate them about what meat eating means. Support animal sanctuaries. And lastly, each household should feed birds and pigeons in their gardens before having their breakfast. Years are passing by, and we should do good, compassionate deeds and build up good karma. This Jain birth we have got is unmol, precious. Let's not waste it and let's use it for good deeds. And something practical you do every day can do is just feed the birds in your garden. To protect our heritage now and for generations to come, our diet is crucially important. Thank you.
Thank you, Nitin Bhai. Wow, that's some conversation here. There's lots to take in, and I think some of the things I was surprised at as well. So I just want, I've got a few things. I haven't got any questions. If there are, I'll point them out to you. But one, in the figs, honey, leather, what I was surprised is wool. Why wool?
Because in the wool industry, especially produced in Australia, in the season where they take the wool from the sheep, people working there are on, wages on how much fast they work. And quite often when they're taking this wool off, the whole flesh of the animal comes out because there's so much carelessness in that. And obviously the sheep also go for slaughter. So that's why wool is not.
Is there such thing as a acceptable wool or not? Or are you saying?
I don't think there is such a thing, because eventually this sheep will go for slaughter. But there is a school of thought which says that if animals die naturally, then it is okay to use their leather.
Okay. So thank you for that. I mean, the vegetarian and veganism is evolving, as you said, and it's, suddenly in the UK, there's huge interest in veganism. Tell me a little bit about your journey from we would eat lots of milk and things have changed, we're more educated, so forth. So if you could tell me a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, I became vegan about 27 years ago. And I was like in denial, like most people are from our Indian background, because we think if cow is like back in the village, very well looked after, like a pet, and it gives plenty of milk. So people think that's no problem there. But in reality, because milk is now mass produced, it is completely different scenario. So once you study that scenario, then you realize that actually meat is part of big himsa or violence. And that's why more and more people are making that journey from being vegetarian to vegan. But a huge number of, especially our British friends, have made that jump straight from being meat eaters to being vegan. So these are very exciting times, because this is our gift to the world. This is what our sadhus have talked about for thousands of years. Ahimsa, parasparo jivanam. When the world actually never actually understood this, our sadhus have spoken, our tirthankars have spoken about it. So this is actually our gift to the world. And the more people go vegetarian and vegan, the more they are also attracted towards our philosophy, our way of life. I have a lot of friends who quite often tell me, English friends, that they wish they were born Jain, because they would not have had to eat meat when they were young. So there are people out there who really appreciate our Jain upbringing, and that how lucky we were that right from birth we grew up in a tradition that there was no meat eating in. So we are in a position of strength. We're small, as I said, we are small number 60,000, but we are really much more than that. We just got to reach out to so many people, and we got to make our mark, and we got to send a message to our British friends that the Jain community is right there leading all the way, supporting the stopping of violence of any kind anywhere as far as possible.
Thank you for that. One of the other things you mentioned, lots of facts, Nitin Bhai, and I think some of them are quite alarming. And as India, is one of the biggest exporter of beef. I mean, what steps are being taken in India itself to reduce this? I know Narendra Modi, during Bajoshan, some of the slaughterhouses have been closed during Bajoshan, but I think behind Argentina, if I'm not mistaken, India is one of the biggest exporters of beef.
There's some question about the statistics because on the ground the reality is that actually export has been curbed a lot. But also you're right that there was a plan called the Pink Revolution where they wanted this kind of animal exports. It's very difficult, even with Narendra Modi, because as you know, India is such a diverse nation with a huge minority of people who don't actually accept or believe in those very principles that we believe in. But slowly, I think people in India are beginning to recognize the animal rights movement in India is growing also very fast. For many, many years, Maneka Gandhi, very famous politician, has been a leading campaigner. In a funny sort of way, as vegetarianism, veganism grows in the West, it is also going back to India. The message that came from India is going back to India. So there's a lot of hope. And we, as you mentioned, we've been campaigning for the last 40 years, sometimes in great despair, where we would go to a meeting in a dark winter evening. There are about 10 or 15 people of sitting down, thinking what we should do. But we never even dreamt that we would see a 2020 where there's such a huge vegan awakening. And in today's Guardian, they're saying that over the COVID last 4 months, vegan and vegetarian food sales have shot up immensely. So we have to have hope, and we have to hope that mankind takes that next step in its evolution towards going vegetarian and vegan. And we are a very important part of that movement, and we should try and see that it happens. Especially not only because it is good, but as I said, our planet is in a really, really serious state now, and the future generations will actually not forgive us if we leave this planet in this kind of condition. If you go back, in our times in India, the idea was always there to leave the planet in good hands, in a good situation, so the future generations can also enjoy it. But over the last 200 years, with industrialization and capitalism, I think the race has been to just use anything that comes to handy for profits. And so suddenly we're finding that the natural resources are disappearing and the nature is hitting back.
Yeah, thank you. We've got a question regarding medicines. We don't always know the ingredients and manufacturing process of medicines which may be prescribed. What's your view on this?
Yes, by law, I think you can ask now for the ingredients of any medicine, and I think your pharmacist should be able to tell you. It's a very difficult area, and a lot of the medicine have the covering, which is also from gelatin. Again, you can ask your doctor that you don't want a pill, but you want a medicine which is not covered with gelatin. It's a difficult area, but some of the companies are now beginning to produce non-gelatin based medicines. And as I said, for ingredients, you have right to find out. By and large, I think most of the medicines will probably be of vegetarian extracts.
Okay. Also, one of the, again, sorry, some of these questions are because I've kind of learned from what you've said. You again mentioned diabetes. Now, look, like you said, predominantly we are all vegetarians, but diabetes in the Asian community is higher. Have you got any kind of thoughts on that? Or what, as to why?
One of the problems is genetically, unfortunately, we are prone to that. But the second is also, even though we are vegetarian, our diets are not healthy diets. So we have to work on that as much as possible. And we have to keep fit. It is so important. Yoga and swimming and whatever exercises we can do. But this has to start at early age, in the 20s, so that you build up that resistance. But within the vegetarian food, the oil ingredients in our food, not so healthy. So these are the things that we have to be very careful about. But yeah, I think exercise is the key to this, and yoga actually has answers to so many questions. And if it's done properly, then it can really help.
Okay. So one of the things that you go into the supermarket and you look for alternatives, milk alternatives, or whether it's cheese. It's very expensive at the moment, as you can. So that for a lot of people, this may be a consequence of saying, well, I'll buy milk instead of getting almond milk or whatever else that you may have. So it's not, affordability is a key sometimes, I think, as well. And I think that's obviously the more production there is, the cheaper the cost will become. But is there also a consequence on the other side where you said soya plantations obviously are decimating and affecting people at the other end as well?
That's correct. So as far as possible, soya should be avoided. I mean, soya is actually superfood. Soya has got everything that you might require, mostly for your body's nutrition. But because it is used, produced at such a high level to feed the animals, it is causing these issues. So it should be avoided if it's possible with other milk alternatives. And you're right about being expensive, but I think it's just a matter of time. Like you can now get meat-free burgers, which are becoming as cheap as the meat burgers. Huge amount of money is now being poured by big American companies to come up with non-meat-based products. So this is just the beginning. There's going to be huge change coming regarding this. Now, milk also. I mean, individually, we got to ask ourselves, where can we avoid milk? For example, tea. And we use milk for tea. That's fine. It's a tradition. But the kick you get from tea is the tea itself. And you try to have black tea for a week. And then you're going to say, oh, I really don't think I ever needed milk in this. So there are things you can avoid. But then there are things like yogurt and obviously chash, which I was also very addicted to. But we're now making chash from vegan yogurt. It's not the same taste. It takes a little while to get used to it, but you get the feeling that you got chash, you had chash. But other things, people are so adaptive. They're coming up with alternatives. We used to use dahi, yogurt for making curry. Now you can make curry without dahi. You can use some thing else to like lemon to make it tasty enough.
So there's a couple of questions. So vegan Jains are currently a minority within the wider Jain community. What can be done to change that?
Yeah, they're a minority, but I'm quite optimistic because a lot of Jains are very open to the idea of going vegan. It is just that the message has to go around much more actively. So that means that we've got a lot more work to do The vegan Jains have a lot of work to do. We have got a lot of work to do. So the more the message gets around, we have had elderly ladies who have gone vegan.
Mm.
You know, in their 70s, 80s, they have gone vegan. There are examples there. So when you sit down and talk to people and they understand, there's little resistance to the whole idea. So it's a matter of time that it will happen, and people will take it up. But as I said, B12 is a very, very important component for vegans. It must be taken regularly.
This is a question which is I'm not sure I can answer, or I'll put it to you. Did modern human beings evolve from a huge amount of bone crunching and meat eating? For example, how did our large brains relative to the rest of our bodies become created without consuming meat?
Yeah, depends on what philosophy you follow. If you follow the Western philosophy of evolution, then there is the whole idea that we were apes and then we were human beings. But if you look at the Jain tradition and the Hindu tradition, human beings were put on that planet right at the time of creation. So there's no issue of evolution. So it depends what school of thought you're coming from. But the whole idea that the brains have grown because of certain issues, I'm not very sort of keen about. But actually, human race has always been vegetarian in the beginning. And though people might say, oh no, it never was. It was a long time back. Even if you go back to Lord Rama's time, which is about 1.7 million years ago, in the Indian subcontinent, the food described was all vegetarian food. So in between, obviously, there was a time when people turned meat eaters. No, I mean, this is how we say
it. Is there we've got lots of information. You Google vegan, vegetarian, lots of things come up. Do you kind of say, look, if you really want to know everything or covers majority, any reading or books that you suggest, or where would you suggest people look? And again, there's lots of false information out there as well. So
yes. So I would always consult the Vegan Society. They are very good, very active, and most of their information is free online. And there's an organization called Viva. They are also very good. And actually, Viva produces a monthly health bulletin, which is so good. It brings you up to speed about what's going on and what's good for you, what's not good for you. So you just go to Google these organizations. They are very, very good organizations out there, and very active.
This obviously, you see sometimes some videos being posted by sort of some sections of the vegan movement. What's your kind of thoughts on that? Because sometimes it can be quite extreme. What are the kind of the traditional vegans doing about it rather than going to the extreme and going to those lengths?
Yes, there are some vegans who are very impatient, and I can understand that because they are so unhappy about what's happening to the cows. But I'm sort of the middle part guy. I believe that you have to take one step at a time, give people space, and not necessarily judge them very quickly. Because I myself, as I said, was not a vegan for a long time. So it takes time for people to understand and take it up. So that's very good. On the other hand, because the social media is so powerful, there are documentaries released like Cowspiracy. These documentaries have actually made thousands and thousands of people go vegan because they're not so extreme, but they're actually showing what's going on. So social media is playing a huge role also in getting this message across.
So, Nitin, we just got to pause there for a second. We've got a couple of polls for people on Zoom just to get their views on things. So I think, Ashish, if you could launch the polls. I think it's coming up hopefully shortly. So the first question is, how do you describe your diet, being vegan or vegetarian?
So this is question to me, or is it?
No, this is to the poll, to the audience.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. I think people on YouTube may not see this. So the question was, again, I'll say, how would you describe your diet, vegetarian, vegan, or other? And it's kind of, vegetarian and vegan are kind of neck and neck at the moment. A few more people to answer. We're going to end the poll in the next few seconds. So if anybody who hasn't voted, please do so. Yeah, so the results are quite neck and neck, 44% vegetarian, 44% vegan, and 11% other. So that's quite interesting. So it does seem that a lot of people in the audience are moving towards veganism. So the next one. The next one is, the question is, if you are not vegan, would you try a vegan diet for 1 month? Yes or no, or maybe? So again, those listening on the YouTube will not able to see this. If you're not vegan, would you try a vegan diet for 1 month? Few more seconds. So the result of the poll is 43% said yes, they would. 14% said no, which is quite surprising, and 43% said maybe. So again, quite a result. I'm surprised at no's because upper diet, Jain diet or vegetarian diet is quite keen to veganism. So I'm surprised at that one, but there we go. That's another one. Okay, so thank you, Nitin Bhai. Just going back to one of the questions and the observation which we talked about earlier was the fact that the cost of vegan products is quite expensive.
Yeah.
So what's your, is there anything that you as part of the vegetarian movement and vegan movement doing anything to put pressure on manufacturers to make these products more affordable or more innovative?
Yeah, the answer is the more the numbers grow, the more the demand will grow, and the more the prices will come down. So that's the only way these companies understand business. So the more customers we get, and I think I read today, Tesco and Lidl and all these supermarkets are coming in with vegan products now, and the more demand it is, there'll be more competition, and the prices will come down. So that's a great possibility. I was just going to say, we have to think out of the box, and we are a small Jain community, but we can impact this country in a big way. So through vegetarianism, we can do that. Vegetarian Christmas lunch is a very good idea. We started a vegetarian society in Kenya, and thinking out of the box was, as you know, in Kenya, most of the Africans now prepare our food at home and also in our weddings. They're experts. They can make you any good curry and jalebi, and they're really good. Now, we go to say, that's great. They're doing something that, of our heritage. So organize a competition by Africans who prepare Indian vegetarian food. Similarly, in UK, I've got so many English friends who will make you very good rotli and shak and rice and dal. They're beginning to learn, and because they know that there's so much variety and so much taste in Indian food. And so when we think out of the box, we got to see how we can get this message across more and more. Our neighbor, we always, if there is something left over, he's always so grateful to have it. But what it does is also makes friendship, and it promotes the whole idea. So food in itself is a huge advantage for us to make so many inroads in this community, even with our small numbers.
Thank you. We've just got a few more minutes, so if anybody else has got any questions, please do post them on YouTube or on Zoom here. So I think one of the questions is asking, is it okay to drink milk from farms who look after their animals in non-cruel manner?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. The Hare Krishna Society, they have started Ahimsa milk, and they are working very hard. They've got a farm now where they're producing Ahimsa milk. They have problems with distribution, and like you said, there's a price problem. But for a vegan, it still is a question mark, because the cow will have to be artificially inseminated for it to give a calf so that it gives milk. So it's not completely sort of natural scenario, but it's as near to that as you can get, because the calf and the cow will be not separated and will not be slaughtered after that. But there are issues with that. With the vegans will not accept. So it's an interesting situation there.
Okay. Nitin Bhai, it's been a real pleasure. I've learned things that I hadn't learned before, and I think thank you for your time and the energy that you put into this movement. I think it obviously has a great impact on the discussions, and people's minds and bodies are changing as well. So I think from Oswald Association of UK, thank you very much for coming on board and sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you very much, and I think the video will be available later for people to view as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.